Iran's modern history has been turbulent to say the least. Having been traumatized by its exposure to European imperialism, the country's leaders were gripped by the desire to become more powerful. In their estimation, if they industrialized and modernized, they would have a greater chance of being able to defend themselves against foreign aggression. The reign of the last Shah of Iran, Mohammed Reza Shah, brings this issue to light. Using the increased revenue of the country's oil sales, the Shah was able to launch a modernization program that saw Iran make rapid material progress. At the same time, however, the dictatorial manner he adopted alienated many within Iranian society. Scarred from being caught up in the 19th century Great Game rivalry between Russia and Britain, Iran sought help from powers such as Italy and Germany to aid its modernization in the interwar period. This became a huge issue once World War II began, because even though Reza Shah proclaimed his country's neutrality, British ownership of Iran's oil industry through the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company meant that it would not take kindly to the presence of German engineers and technicians remaining inside of Iran during the war. When the Shah refused to kick the Germans out, Britain along with the Soviet Union invaded the country in 1941 and forced the Shah to abdicate. His young son, Mohammed Reza Shah, was installed in his place. Iran then served as a vital conduit through which the Allies could send supplies to the USSR, referred to as the Persian Corridor. The capital Tehran even served as the location of a key meeting of the Allied leadership in 1943. Once the war was over, the Allied promise to withdraw from Iran was not upheld by the Soviets, who even went on to establish two puppet states in the northwest of the country. One of the earliest confrontations of the Cold War, the Iran crisis of 1946, was soon resolved and Soviet troops withdrew. The dominant issue affecting Iranian politics in the immediate post-war period was oil. Iranians felt disgruntled by the prospect of their most valuable resource being almost entirely in the hands of a foreign government. In 1951, Iran's parliament, the Majlis, named the patriotic Mohammed Mossadegh as the new prime minister. Immediately, the experienced politician nationalized the oil industry and set up the National Iranian Oil Company. Whilst this move won him the adoration of his people, Britain's antagonistic response to losing a key strategic asset led to the Abadan crisis, in which economic sanctions were imposed on Iran and the major refineries at Abadan were blockaded by British warships. During this time, there was even a power struggle of sorts between the Shah and Mossadegh, the latter resigning in 1952 but being reinstated just days later on the back of a popular uprising at his resignation. The very next year, however, Mossadegh's government fell to a coup d'etat engineered by the CIA and MI6. The coup put the Shah back in firm control of the country, who in turn ratified the Consortium Agreement of 1954, which split the oil revenue 50-50 between the Iranian government and a consortium of Western companies. For the next 25 years, the Shah ruled in an increasingly autocratic style. The increased revenue from oil production enabled him to embark upon an ambitious program of socio-economic reform. In 1963, he announced his White Revolution. Aimed at expediting the modernization of his country, it focused on a wide range of issues, including land reforms, the right to vote for women, and industrial development projects. Hoping to appeal to the peasantry, in the long run, the Shah's White Revolution helped to sow the seeds of his own downfall as it alienated the landed elites and the ulama. Demonstrations in 1963 helped transform Ruhollah Khomeini into a major political and religious leader after he criticized the reforms on the grounds that they were an attack on Islam and accused the Shah of submitting to America and Israel. The westernizing trend favored by the Shah put him at odds with the conservative elements of his society. At the same time, his regime was constantly accused of corruption, whilst the National Intelligence Agency, SAVAK, aggressively cracked down on political dissent. All this formulated an atmosphere in which huge chunks of Iranian society felt discontent with the Pahlavi regime. By 1978, this culminated in a popular revolution spearheaded by none other than Ayatollah Khomeini. Feeling his position was untenable, the Shah went into exile in 1979 and the monarchy was abolished. Later that same year, an Islamic Republic was announced with Khomeini leading it. The Islamic Revolution sent shockwaves throughout the world. Anti-American sentiment had been integral to the Islamist cause against the Shah, and so the new Islamic Republic's relations with the US proved to be contentious. Late in 1979, an Islamist student group took over the American embassy in Tehran and held the diplomats within hostage. The ensuing diplomatic crisis resulted in the severance of relations between Iran and the US, which is still the case to this day. Thank you guys for watching. I want to thank my patrons for always supporting. If you want to financially support Hikmah History, there's a link to my Patreon in the description to this video. Don't forget to check out my second channel on street food if you want to see delicious food being prepared. Until next time, peace!